Hello and welcome to another edition of Ryan and Bryan, or Bryan and Ryan. Happy New Year. And Ryan Peterson, first of all, Happy New Year to you. Hope you're doing
Thank you.
well.
Yes, sir.
How's it- Good. Good holiday.
Yeah, watched a lot of football, and then in Tyler, Texas, where we are, got a ton of snow, which we do not see. So my kids had a blast. Growing up in Kansas, I'm not a big fan of snow. I've seen enough of it. But my kids, they got day off from school because of it, and they were playing in snow all day. So it was pretty cool.
I loved it until it started breaking my trees. And I've got
Yeah.
this massive bunch of tree limbs now in my front yard that I've got to have taken away. So, but hey, it was beautiful while it lasted. So, also what was beautiful while it lasted was the college football season, because they said it couldn't be done. And by gosh, we got through one, as
Yeah.
crazy as it was. And it culminated in the Alabama Crimson Tide uh, boat racing Ohio State 52-24 on Monday night. Your thoughts and impressions on that game, first of all?
Uh, you know, Fitting into the season, it's fitting that the best program in college football was the one that stood at the top during a season unlike we've ever seen. It just shows how good Nick Saban is. This is nothing against Alabama because they don't have to apologize for anything, but they've made it to where it's boring to me anymore because I just assume they're going to take care of business. And also, I was glad that the team that played a truly full season was crowned the champion as opposed to playing 7-8 games. So, just dominating performance. I don't think it was really that surprising. Was hearing a lot of comparisons about greatest teams ever. I heard comparisons to Alabama this year with LSU of last year. That offense was just ridiculous. Really, it almost wasn't fair. And you kind of, even though Ohio State had made it like 14-14 early in the game, you just felt like they weren't going to be able to stop them. They got the one sack fumble, but that offense and Smith, the receiver, I'm glad he won the Heisman. I felt like he deserved it. I was glad they gave it because a lot of times, the skill players, they kind of get gypped. But he was amazing in one half of play. He got hurt there to start the second half. But, man, yeah, what more can you say? Alabama was dominant. They deserved it. They're the best team.
I have to say, a long-time LSU fan who has been dealt a lifetime of misery by the Alabama Crimson Tide all the way back to the Bear Bryant days. I've seen some really good LSU teams just get trucked by Alabama. And what you mentioned getting bored by it. What's happened to me has been different. I have gained more and more appreciation for what they've done as they continue to do it. Where I used to hate them, now all I can do is just respect them, because nobody else has done what this program is doing. You think about, when you look at Alabama and Saban, I wrote this on Twitter last night, regardless of what you think about them, whether you like them or not, you have got to respect the culture. No opt-outs, quitters, great players.
Waddle played hurt.
Yes, great players who come back for their senior year.
Mm-hmm.
They don't run off. And listen, I heard today Rick Neuheisel saying that there are potentially 11 players on this football team that are going to go in the NFL draft, and they're all projected first rounders. So we're talking about superstars who didn't decide to check out at the end of their junior year and take the money. They came back.
Right.
And people always talk about, boy, it must be a miserable thing having to play for a guy like Nick Saban because he's so demanding and he never seems satisfied and he just never seems happy. They all came back and put the team, what you mentioned about Waddle, everybody else would have made a business decision. They'd have shut it down. There's no way that 99% of people in his position would have come back, limped out on that field and tried to play. It would not have happened. Mac Jones hung around, waited his turn.
Didn't
came in,
transfer.
what, you know, and he was a 3-star recruit, Ryan. He was a 3-star guy, and he was third in the Heisman.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible what Nick Saban has managed to build. Unselfish, incredibly tough. I listened to A&M people screaming and yelling because they thought they should be in the playoffs because they were so much better now than they were at the beginning, back when Alabama beat them 52-24. Well, let me assure you, Alabama was a far better team last night than they were when they played A&M. Their defense was much better last night, and that was even after Battle got ejected for targeting.
Right.
They shut Ohio State. They kept Ohio State under 400 yards, which is shutting them down in 2021 football. The touchdown drive after Devontae Smith got hurt, Mac Jones was out there limping around. Their backup running back was in the game, and they went down the field and scored without Devontae Smith, without Najee Harris on the field, and a limping quarterback. I mean, what else can you say about these guys? It's just incredible what they do. 7 national championships now, 6 in the last 14 years for Nick Saban. And just when you think somebody's finally caught up to him, Clemson, whoever, Ohio State, they changed the entire way they do things. They went from being a dinosaur smash mouth football team to the space age Star Wars NASCAR offense. I mean, they adapt, they change the way they play defense. I mean, I don't have enough accolades for them. It's incredible what these guys do, and no other program in the country does it.
Yeah, and when I say I'm bored again, I'm not talking like they don't have to apologize to anybody.
Oh, I understand.
I marvel at what they've done. It's just, as a fan, I'm just like, I've seen this movie so many times, and I just know it's going to happen. And it's funny, Brian, because you talked about there's been a couple times over the last 7-8 years that the talking heads on these shows, that I guess we're talking heads now, but they talk about how college football has caught up with Alabama because maybe Alabama got knocked out in the semifinal. And then what happens the next year? They steamroll. They adapt. They figure out what they did wrong, and they make up for it. You talked about how much talent they had. I had read this morning the 2017 recruiting class may be the greatest we've ever seen. They're going to have maybe up to 12 guys from that class be top 50 picks, which you're talking the first round and a half of the NFL draft in one recruiting class. And it's so, number one, it's amazing to hit on that many guys. Number two, it's amazing that they stayed, because in this era of transfer, I'm not getting my playing time immediately. And think about the guys that they had to wait behind. I mean, these guys didn't just get to come in and play immediately at Alabama. It's a culture. And, Joel Klatt had made the point last night that there's, without a doubt, Nick Saban has cemented himself as the greatest of all time. And I don't know how you can argue with it. He's ridiculous. And growing up in my era when I was a kid in the 80s and 90s, the Tom Osbornes, the Bobby Bowdens, that were really good. None of them, in my opinion, can even touch or even come close to compare with what Saban has done, and doing it all in the SEC.
And then I'll throw one other thing out there. Every other school, for instance, LSU recruits on a level that is close to what Alabama does. I can't say it's equal, but it's close. They're always a top 5 recruiting class. Nick Saban gets in your face. Those 5- and 4-star recruits that all come in maybe with an entitlement attitude, he doesn't put up with any of that crap. He gets in their face. He coaches them hard. He doesn't care if your feelings get hurt. I mean, all he's about is developing you and making you better, and you do it his way or you sit. Can you imagine good on good in their practices, what that must look like? I mean, and again, those kids don't leave. They don't go, well, my feelings are hurt. My mom just called. I'm going to transfer. That doesn't happen at Alabama. How do you explain that? These kids want that kind of coaching, you know,
Yeah.
but you get these guys that recruit these kids and the kids have all the power. It's like, if you fuss at my baby, I'm going to leave. Well, Saban says, see ya. I'll just
And
replace you with a.
now, and now I mean, the track record just continues. But if you're a kid and you want to go to the NFL and you want to be in a national championship chase every year, of course you're going to go to Alabama. And you realize the sacrifices you're going to have to make. You're going to have to suck it up. You're going to have to get coached hard. But that's the price, the price of success. And the culture he has made is just I don't think we will ever see anything like it again. And it's interesting. I had heard a discussion with Sarkisian leaving now because he was supposed to be eventually the successor. With him leaving, maybe Nick will stay around a little longer than he was going to until he finds another successor. But I'm in awe, and we'll see. But we'll never see anything like this again.
And it's just mind-boggling. I mean, he didn't get it done in the NFL. He's not an NFL coach, and he recognized that. He is a developer, and he's got a way of doing things that is proved to be flawless. I mean, when they fall off, LSU last year, one of the greatest teams in history, 15-0, great offense, put 20 people in the pros in the first 2 rounds. It was ridiculous. They had a fall off. They lost coaches. They lost players. Players opted out.
Which is understandable. But at Alabama, it's like, that doesn't matter. We're going to be right back next year.
I mean, they lost coaches, players. Their best players opted out. No senior leadership. That never happens in Alabama. When they fall off, they lose 2 ball games. That never happens. I mean, they missed the playoffs for the first time in the playoff history last year. So that may have been motivation enough to drive them this year. It's just amazing. And for the folks who are excited, the Texas fans who are excited about Sarkisian going to Texas and because of the play calling, you better get offensive linemen like Alabama has if you think you're going to do that at Texas. You got to recruit on that level. And that's one thing Tom Herman has not done. He did not recruit on that level. Sarkisian's a terrific offensive coach, but there's going to be – the people at Texas need to understand something. There are a lot of assistants to Nick Saban that have gone on to be head coaches that haven't experienced the success that he has. Jimbo Fisher's the only other one that's won a national championship, and he won it at Florida State, and then he let the program slide. Okay? So it's no guarantee, no disparaging of Sark, but there's no guarantee he's going to go in there and become the next Nick Saban. The problem they've got there at Texas is a culture problem that comes from the top down. Boosters all the way. So until that changes, it's going to be the same old, same old. If they can all get behind Sark, he's got a chance to be very successful and get them back on track. But it's going to take more than just Sark calling plays. It's going to take.
And I think Sark has a chance. I think he's really good. I think he's gotten better as a play caller.
No
but
doubt.
James Franklin was on ESPN, had like 30 different channels going last night. But he had made an observation, the Penn State head coach, about why Alabama was so good. And you have mentioned it before, Bryan, but he was saying, yes, Nick Saban is great. I'm not arguing that. He deserves all the accolades. But one of the reasons he's so great is everyone is bought in and everyone is on the same page, from the athletic director to the school president to the boosters. Everyone is on the same page. They know what it's going to take, what we have to do to get to this level. And that's why they've been able to sustain it. So, yes, like at Texas, I mean, they've got to be on the same page. There's no way you're going to match, even come close to scratching what Alabama does.
And I watched the down period for Alabama between Gene Stallings and Nick Saban, okay? And those people watched their beloved Alabama Crimson Tide program be very, very average.
Right.
Bad to average at times, okay? So they were desperate to get Nick Saban. They begged him to come. There was no chance that anybody was going to try to buck him or try to undermine him. boosters, president, everybody. I hope that's going to happen at Texas. I'm not confident that's going to happen at Texas because it hasn't happened up to this point. They've run off every coach they've had going back to Darrell Royal. Even the greatest got run off at some point by unhappy boosters. Mac Brown got run off. Every coach that's been at Texas, no matter how successful, it's ended badly. And so that's got to change.
Yeah.
That's got to change if Texas thinks they want to, if they want to compete with Oklahoma on a year-to-year basis in the Big 12, that has got to change. All right, shifting gears. Dallas Cowboys, historically horrible defense, missed the playoffs, finally fired Mike Nolan. It had to be done. There was just no way the fan base was going to accept him coming back. So now who do you go to? Dan Quinn, the former Atlanta Falcons coach. He was the architect of the Legion of Boom in Seattle. So the question I've read many times is, are the Cowboys getting the Dan Quinn who was the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, or the Dan Quinn who was the defensive coordinator of the Seattle Seahawks with a tremendous defense?
Yeah, and I don't know the answer to that because, the thing is, in Atlanta, their defenses were not good with him. It was a part of his downfall. And then really, I thought their defense got better this year after Quinn got fired. So, that Legion of Boom, that was a generational defense that had just some really talented guys that they had got with good value picks in the draft, and they had a little 3 or 4 year window. But I don't know. I mean, because the Cowboys do not have that kind of talent right now defensively. Maybe, if there's so much more pressure on your shoulders and things to worry about as a head coach. Maybe he just needs, this is what he needs, just to be able to focus on his defense. We'll put it this way, though. Can't be any worse than they were. So
no, that's not possible.
You would think they'll be able to improve. They're going to have a good draft pick, get a talented defensive guy. So they need to address some of those issues, and hopefully they can. But we'll see. I'm not ready to say this is a great hire because we haven't seen it from him in a while. But again, maybe this is what he needs, just getting back to being a defensive coach, and he can turn it around.
I'm with you in terms of, I think that, he had good defenses. I think everything fell apart for him when they blew the lead against New England in the Super Bowl. When they were up 28-3 and lost the game, he lost his program. For whatever reason, it was like it put them into a state of shock that they're still in.
Yeah,
I've seen that happen.
Yeah,
I've seen that happen to teams before. I've seen that happen on the high school level where a team was really rolling along, and then all of a sudden, man, they got boat raced by somebody, but it was totally unexpected, and they never got back on track. It's incredible what that can do to your psyche. I'm with you. It's player personnel. Their defense has maybe 4 players that might compete for a starting job on another defense in the NFL. Maybe 4. I'm being generous.
Yeah, and I think that they've overvalued guys that they have that they act like are stars, like Jalen Smith.
Horrible.
I guess this year was a down year compared to how he had played before, because he did have a good year earlier. But he is not worth what he's making. DeMarcus Lawrence is not, making an impact of a $20 million a year pass rusher. But yeah, you look at this defense. How many guys? And Vander Esch is a very talented guy, but he can't stay on the field. You're always worried about the neck. There's so many things with this defense and so many holes. I think is it Diggs, the corner? I think that was a good pick. They need to get more good young guys like that, but they got to get some more talent because right now they just don't have it. I think they're fine offensively, and when Dak comes back. They do need to upgrade the offensive line, but they should be able to score points next year. But if they're going, and in this division, if they can just have a little defense, just a little, if they can be average, they'll be the best team in that division. And Brian, one other thing too that just happened, the Eagles kind of shockingly fire Doug
Yep.
Peterson after we had just been told he was safe. So that will be interesting too. What were your thoughts on that? Because I guess this means Wentz is going to be the guy now and won't get traded. But kind of surprising, a Super Bowl winning head coach gets the can.
I was shocked. I'm not going to lie. The man's 3 years away from winning the Super Bowl, knocking off New England to do
Yeah.
it, by the way, and doing it with a backup quarterback. He didn't suddenly become an idiot.
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't think he did either.
Now, I don't know what happened to Carson Wentz. I really don't. I can't explain it. It's obvious that something needs to change. Apparently, their relationship became very fractured. I don't know what the deal was. Yeah, and what that tells me is Jeffrey Lurie decided he was going to choose his big money quarterback over his head football coach. That's not unusual in the NFL. Um, it's going to be interesting to see who he hires because that person's going to be charged with resurrecting that guy's career because he is not the quarterback he was even 3 years ago. I mean,
Right.
I don't know what's happened to Wentz, but he is just not there. And it's going to take somebody that's a psychologist or a psychiatrist, I guess, first of all. And then they're going to literally have to break him down and build him up all over again to get him back mechanically, to get him back reading defenses, whatever the issues are. There's a lot they got to improve their offensive line that was just shredded by, injuries. That may have been the problem. I don't know. We got our own problems in Dallas. So, I mean, I'm not worried about the Eagles. But I will say this, the team to watch in this division, as far as I'm concerned, is Washington. Because the best coach in this division is the coach at Washington. Rivera has done a tremendous job. And what Heineke did the other night at quarterback in a playoff game when the kid literally was, working at a Walmart 3 weeks ago was incredible. So, they may have a quarterback for all we know. It's incredible what's going on. The playoffs, let's talk a little bit about that. Of all that took place over the weekend, what stood out to you the most?
I think the Steelers game. I mean, I was having flashbacks to the Broncos Seahawks Super Bowl, the snap over the head, which is a nightmare for me as a Bronco fan. But I hadn't seen a team look so unprepared since that Super Bowl in a playoff game. And now I hear everyone calling, is this the end for Ben? Like, do they need to move on? So really interested. Kind of cool playoff year, though, to see the Buffalo Bills and the Cleveland Browns both get playoff wins for long-suffering fan bases. So pretty cool to see that. But if anything, it didn't change my mind on who I think is coming out. I thought the Ravens-Titans game would be a great game. I had picked the Ravens. I don't think the Ravens can beat the Chiefs. I just don't think they can. I think they're too one-dimensional. I think the Chiefs, the evolution of the Chiefs has been that their defense has become good. That, Patrick Mahomes doesn't have to score 50 every game. He can have a down game and they still win this year. That's, I think, what's made them so much better. So I don't see Baltimore going in and beating Kansas City. I think Buffalo is the only team that has a chance, and that's just because I think Josh Allen is turning into a superstar. But I still don't think they'll beat the Chiefs either. In the NFC, the Saints kind of looked like what I thought they would. It was an ugly game, but Breeze, and now we're I'm here, and I don't know what to believe that this could be the last playoff run for Breeze, and Aaron Rodgers. I just don't know. I think the Saints are the only team that might be able to beat them. Although, well, I say that Brady's still around, so I don't know. I still think the Chiefs are the team to beat. And I just don't see anyone beating them. But it is kind of funny. In the AFC, you have all the young guys, the young guns. And in the NFC, you have all the older guys.
Watching the game on the History Channel.
Yeah, Brady and Rodgers and Breeze. So kind of cool to see two different.
I think that I do think that we've seen the last of Breeze after his run is over. Whenever that ends, it's obvious his skills have diminished. He just does not have the arm strength anymore. His age has really gotten to him. On the other hand, Tom Brady, good Lord. I mean, it's unbelievable what he's doing at his age.
Yeah.
I can't explain it. TB must work. That's all I can say.
You know what else? Look, I know there's other, like, you can't just paint everything black and white here, but how, as brilliant as Bill Belichick is, how could they not make this work, that to have Tom Brady as long as you can? I mean, I just don't understand why you would want him to leave. And we see how he's playing. And, I was reading now, I mean, possibly, Brady wants to keep playing. And look, I don't know if he can keep playing like this. I mean, it's insane what he's doing now. But, I mean, imagine if he still has another 2 to 3 years. Why would you have let him walk away? It's truly remarkable.
And I think it had more to do with Brady ready to get out from under Belichick than it is that Belichick wanting him to go. But, I mean, Belichick's MO all his career has been get rid of players before they reach their end.
Yeah.
And it's worked.
Yeah.
Brady's a freak of nature. And I don't think anybody could have anticipated that he'd play as well as he's played this year. And that things would work out with him and Arians, because early on, it didn't look like that marriage was going to work. And and Arians has coached him hard, and he's critical of him. And, somebody of Brady's stature could have really, buckled at that and fought it and resented it. And instead, he just continued to get better. So they're a wild card. I mean, you just don't know what they're capable of.
And the funny thing, the reason I can't totally buy on the Bucs right now, though, they have to go to New Orleans. That New Orleans defense has dominated Brady twice already this year.
Yep.
And I know it's really hard in the NFL to beat the same team 3 times in the same year, but they have owned him, and it'll be interesting to see if Brady can figure them out the third time.
For one thing I'll take away too, but from this, number one, the Ravens-Titans game, it was so refreshing to watch big boy football. These two teams beat the crap out of each other. I mean, defense was alive and well in the NFL this past weekend. And it was so refreshing to watch. Two teams just don't like each other and took every shot they could take at each other. And it was beautiful.
And it's funny thinking these two teams originally were the Oilers and Browns. It'd be great to get them back in the same division, because it's rare you see, really this day and age, it's rare you see that kind of like hatred for each other. That rivalry is in 2 years has blown up into one of the better ones. So yeah, that was a fun game. And the Ravens, again, I still think they're too one-dimensional to beat a team like Kansas City, but it was a fun game to watch.
My other 2 observations real quickly. What the Browns pulled off with their offensive coaching staff literally not there. To not have Stefanski, to not have the offensive Callahan, the offensive line coach. These guys are play callers. To not have play callers, Alex Van Pelt called the plays. He called a beautiful game. And then to see them jump out to the big lead and watch Pittsburgh come back, and the Browns didn't fold at Pittsburgh, extremely impressive. That football team is dangerous.
You do wonder, do the Browns have the recipe to possibly be able to upset the Chiefs, because they have that 2-headed monster at running back, good pass rush with Garrett. I still don't think they're explosive enough to beat the Chiefs, but to beat the Chiefs, you have to be able to run the ball, control the clock, keep Patrick off the field. So, I mean, the way they're playing right now, I mean, they have to have a lot of confidence, but it was fun. It's fun also seeing teams that still run the football, that can just run it down your throat. Because growing up as a Bronco fan, that's what I watched Terrell Davis do. And I love that kind of football, and then the play action pass. So it's fun to watch them play.
You look at the Cowboys dynasty, the last time they actually won anything. I mean, it was Emmitt Smith, but they had all the weapons, but Emmitt Smith was the bell cow, and they drove him down people's throats. The other thing I'll say is that whoever the offensive coordinator is with the Buffalo Bills, whoever the quarterback coach is, that guy ought to be the next head coach someplace, because when you can take a guy as raw as Josh Allen who is a mid 50% passer and turn him into a guy that's completed almost 70% of his passes this last year, that kind of improvement does not happen. And it happened. This kid, they drafted him knowing he was extremely raw, playing at Wyoming. He had all the physical tools, but there were a lot of people that didn't think he was going to ever get the accuracy. That it proved that can be coached.
Yeah.
You can get better. Somebody can develop that in someone if the kid's willing to work hard enough. And I love Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen, number one, is the perfect Buffalo quarterback. I mean, the guy is big, strong. He can throw the ball in that wind, in that cold weather. He's Jim Kelly part two. I mean, he's just perfect for that team.
Yeah, and
Tough.
yeah.
You know,
He's changed my perspective too on the future of the AFC, because I honestly had just thought, well, Mahomes is just going to own it forever. But I got to be honest, Allen makes plays that I've only seen Mahomes make. And like you had said, he had all the physical traits. Like, he was everything you'd want physically in a quarterback, but the completion percentage was so bad. It was like, well, it doesn't matter if he can throw a mile if he can't put it in the right spot. And what he has done from year one to year two to year three is unbelievable. And you look at Josh Allen, you look at Mahomes, you look at how good Justin Herbert was this year, Lamar Jackson. There are some young stud. Deshaun Watson, I left out. Stud young quarterbacks in the AFC that are going to be around for a long time. It should be interesting.
And you mentioned Deshaun Watson, and boy, what a soap opera is going on down in Houston right now. I mean,
Surely they would not be dumb enough to trade him.
He may not give him any choice. That's the thing that's so crazy about this. I mean, I saw the thing that was most intriguing was the one where he goes to Miami and Houston would get Tua in return. Beyond that, I mean, boy, the Texans organization, they're starting to rival Dallas as being a train wreck. Okay, and that's amazing to me.
And again, I don't see how this would happen. I think it's all just people making up rumors. But if a trade was on the table and Miami could get Deshaun Watson, you do it yesterday, because if you put Watson on that Miami team, they have a great coach. They're loaded defensively. I mean, all of a sudden Miami is a scary team for the next 10 years too. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I still would think cooler heads will prevail. They'll figure out a way to make it work, because you do not give up a player like Deshaun Watson. I mean, I don't care if you get the number one pick or not, you don't do it. So it'll be interesting to see, though, if he gives them an option.
All right, real quickly, AFC playoffs, pick it, Baltimore or Buffalo?
I'm going to go in the AFC, both home teams. So I'm going to go Buffalo and Kansas City.
Okay. I'm going to go with you on that. I think it's chalk. I do believe that. Rams at Green Bay and Tampa Bay at New Orleans. I think Green Bay wins at home. Tampa Bay, New Orleans that's a much tougher pick.
I could be way wrong. I think I'll probably pick Tampa Bay this time, just because I think it's so hard to beat the same team 3 times. Brady's playing much better than Breeze is right now. And I don't know. I just don't feel good about the Saints right now. I didn't love the way the Bears game went. And look, it doesn't matter. You win, you move on. But I'm not loving the way they're playing right now. I could be completely wrong. It's probably crazy for me to pick the team the Saints. The other thing too, a lot of times when one team gets embarrassed the first time, it's a complete flip the next time. And the Saints embarrassed the Buccaneers on prime time, and I'm sure that stuck with them. So we'll see.
I'm going to pick the Saints and not feel one bit confident about it. Okay. I mean, I just because of home field, I guess.
No, and honestly, I'm more picking the Bucks because I don't want to just pick chalk on all 4.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not loving how the Saints are playing right now. But their defense has owned Brady this year, so would not be surprised if they beat him.
Any last words before we wrap it up?
No. What are we going to talk about when football season's over?
I don't know, because basketball is having a hard time just getting on the
Yeah,
court right now.
I'm starting to wonder how many games are going to get played. So
The last thing I'll just say, just in hindsight, is that thank God we had a college football season. Thank God that clearer heads prevailed, and that someone in leadership, not the Big Ten, was brave enough to say, we're going to do this, we're going to make it happen, and somehow we're going to get through it. Because if we had gone through a fall without college football, I would have been suicidal. That's just all I can say. Thank you to everybody that made it happen.
yeah, absolutely.
All right, buddy. Again, you can. We're going to drop this today because we usually drop on Tuesdays. But we ask you to make comments on YouTube, ask questions if you'd like. Feel free to hammer us for being stupid. Everybody else does. And so we hope you'll join us next week. Have a great week. Thanks, Ryan.
See ya.
All right.